from this session onward, we have to continue the RFID technology in the chapter 8. So, we will continue from that side onward. RFID technology. What is RFID technology? Actually, this RFID technology you may have seen in your office or some other places, but you may have not recognized what it is. The radio frequency identification uses electromagnetic field to automatically identify and track tags attached to objects. It's something like as an example, I will tell in my office, my office identity card, that is his RFID technology. When I come inside the office, I have to place this in the door. So, then door will be automatically open. So, likewise, it has a radio frequency. Using that, it will the reader will retrieve the data which is available in the RFID card. So, that is a technology using this RFID. So, as example, RFID mobility gate for controlling and tracking vehicles. You may have seen that sometimes when you park vehicle in the car park, when you go inside, the security person or somebody will give a RFID card. So, you will be having that card and you put it in the car. When you park that, that parking slot will be identified by the systems through the RFID technology. And dual band mobility pass for the electronic identification of vehicle, parking spot sensor for parking occupancy detection. So, there are so many examples we can express. So, based on the requirement, we can use this RFID technology for various kind of requirement which you are facing in your life. So, an RFID system consists of 3 elements. What are those 3 elements? One is RFID tag. Tag is which I mentioned is like a card. Let's say if it is like a card. So, in this next video which I have downloaded from the YouTube, so I will show that to you. It will explain how the RFID technology works in the practical environment. And RFID tag means it is something which is pasted somewhere in the parcel or which is available as a card. So, that RFID tag is there, and the reader, there is a reader which should read the information available in the RFID card or a tag. And this handheld devices and read the information on RFID tags. So, the information available in the RFID tag, it is a magnetic field is there. We can store some data. So, those data can be readable by using the RFID reader. So, this is the reader, right. The information available in the RFID tag will be retrieved here. It's like this RFID tag. Let's say this is a card, my identity card, office identity card, right. So, I am here. So, my face is there, my details, all of the details are there. So, when you go inside the office, first of all you have to open the door. So, if you have the RFID card in your pocket, that will automatically identify that you are coming, because that reader will read the data available in the card. So, there are different type of RFID card, RFID tags, because some are readable in the very distance and some are readable in short distance. So RFID reader is something, let's say if it is a door, that door, in the door there is a lock, so we will paste the RFID reader here. Or else in a supermarket, sometimes there are some devices like this, I cannot draw well, and using this RFID reader, that will send some radio frequency. So when they are when it is sending the radio frequency, it goes to the card, it read the data available in the tag and then retrieve the information. Then there is a backend system. Backend system is for the information readable from this RFID reader will be taken into the system, and the system will have the other information stored there. That is how this RFID technology works. So in the next this slide, I will explain that the person who is describing this, he will explain how the RFID technology works. So I am not going to run this full video. In the middle of the video I stop that. So after when you getting the idea of what is RFID technology.
Hey friends, welcome to the YouTube channel All About Electronics. So in this video we will see about the RFID technology, which is also known as a radio frequency identification. So in this video we will see what is RFID, what are the different applications of this RFID, what is inside this RFID chip, and how this RFID works. So first of all, let's start with what is RFID. So this radio frequency identification or RFID is a technology which is working on a radio frequency or a radio waves. So this technology is used to automatically identifying the objects or tracking the objects. Now here these objects could be anything. The objects could be a books in the library, or it could be the any item which you are purchasing from the shopping mall, or it could be the inventory in the warehouse, or maybe it could be your own car. And not only the objects, but it can be used for the tracking the animals as well as the birds. So in this RFID technology, the RFID tag is used to get attached to the object which we wants to track. So this RFID reader is continuously sending radio waves. So whenever this object is in the range of the reader, then this RFID tag used to transmit its feedback signal to the reader. So it is very similar to the technology which is used in a barcode. But in case of a barcode, the object and the scanner should be in a line of sight. As this RFID technology is not a line of sight technology, so as far as this object is within the range of the reader, object is able to identify the reader and it is able to send the feedback signal back to the reader. So using this RFID technology, we can track even multiple objects at the same time. So now let us see what is inside this RFID system. So as we've already discussed, this RFID system contains two components, the RFID reader and the RFID tags. Now these RFID tags are also coming in many ways. Like this RFID tag could be an active tag, it could be a passive tag, or it could be a semi-passive tag. Now these passive tags do not have their own power supply. So this passive tag relies on the radio waves which is coming from the RFID reader for the source of energy. While in case of a semi-passive tag, they used to have their own power supply. But for transmitting the feedback signal back to the RFID reader, they used to rely on the signal which is coming from the RFID reader. While in case of an active tag, they used to have their own power supply. But for transmitting the signal back to the reader also, they are relying on their own power supply. So as this passive tag do not have their own power supply, so the range is less compared to the active and the semi-passive tags. Alright, so now first of all let's see what is inside this RFID reader. So these RFID readers are coming in a many size and the shapes. So this RFID reader could be a handheld reader, or it could be as large as the size of the door which you normally see inside the shopping malls. So this RFID reader mainly consists of three components. So the first component of the RFID reader is the RF signal generator. So this signal generator generates a radio wave which are transmitted using this antenna. Also to receive the feedback signal which is coming from the tag, the RFID reader also have a receiver or a signal detector. And to process the information which is being sent by the RFID tag, this RFID reader also have a microcontroller, or many times this RFID reader is directly connected to the computer. So now let us see about the RFID tag. So most of the tags which are being used today are a passive tags, because these passive tags are quite cheaper compared to the active tags, as well as they do not require any power source, so they are quite compact. So these passive tags are also coming in a many forms. So this passive tag could be either a size of a keychain, or it could be either a size of a credit card, or maybe it could be in the form of a label. So let us see what are the basic components inside this RFID tag. So the first component that you see inside the RFID tag is the transponder, which receives the radio waves which are coming from the reader and sends the feedback signal back to the reader. As the passive tags do not have their own supply, so they rely on the radio waves which are coming from the reader. So they used to get the energy from the radio waves which are coming from the reader. So using this rectifier circuit, the energy that is coming from the radio waves is stored across the capacitor, and this energy is used as a supply for the controller as well as the memory element inside this RFID tag. So now let us see the working principle for this RFID system. So before we see this working principle, let us see the different frequencies at which these RFID tags are operated. So mainly these RFID tags are operated at three frequencies: the low frequency range, the high frequency range, and the ultra high frequency range. So this frequency range or frequency of operation varies with country to country, but majority of the countries used to follow this frequency. Different frequencies at which these RFID tags are operated. So mainly these RFID tags are operated at three frequencies: the low frequency range, the high frequency range, and the ultra high frequency range. So this frequency range or frequency of operation varies with country to country, but majority of the countries used to follow these frequencies for the operation for the RFID tags. So as these low frequency signals can travel very short distance, so the range of the RFID tags which is using this low frequency range is up to the 10 centimeters. So these high frequency radio waves can travel up to the 1 meter, while the ultra high frequency radio waves can travel much longer. So the RFID tags which are using this ultra high frequency can travel up to 10 to 15 meters. So now let us see the working principle for this RFID tag. Now this working principle also depends upon the frequency of operation. So for the low frequency and the high frequency operation, the working principle is based on the inductive coupling. While in case of high frequency RFID tags, the working principle is based on the electromagnetic coupling. So first of all, let us see the working principle for this low frequency and the high frequency RFID tags. So as you have said earlier, this RFID reader continuously sending the radio waves with a particular frequency. So now this radio waves which is being sent by this RFID reader serves three purposes. First, it induces the enough power into the passive tag. Second, it provides the synchronization clock for the passive tags. And the third, it acts as a carrier for the data which is coming back from the RFID tag. So these are the basic three purposes which is being served by these radio waves which is sent by this RFID reader. So in case of a low frequency and high frequency operation, as the RFID reader and tag are very close to each other, so the working principle is based on the inductive coupling. So the field which is generated by this RFID reader used to get coupled with the antenna of a RFID tag, and because of this mutual coupling, the voltage will get induced across the coil of a RFID tag. Now the some portion of this voltage is getting rectified and used as a power supply for the controller as well as the memory elements. Now as the RFID reader is sending a radio waves of a particular frequency, so the voltage that is induced across the coil is also of a particular frequency. So this induced voltage is also used to derive a synchronization clock for the controller. So now suppose if we connect a load across this coil, then current will start flowing through this load, and if we change the impedance of this load, then the current that is flowing through this load will also change.
Okay, so I think that is enough from the video. So in that video which described about what is RFID technology, how it is working in the supermarket and also any other places that you are visiting. So you may have seen that RFID technology which they have used. So RFID has some advantages over barcode. So you know that what is the barcode is, right? So when you go to the supermarket, you can see that there is a barcode. When you after taking of the items from the supermarket, you go to the cashier and then you give the product you have selected. So, they will bill it. So, when they are billing that, they read the barcode information and retrieve the data. So, what is the difference between the RFID and the barcode will be highlighted here. No line of sight required between the code and the reader. So, in the barcode, what you have to do is you have to scan it by placing the reader. But in the RFID, that automatically that generates the radio frequency, you don't need to place the scanner in front of the barcode. So, no line inside is the advantages when we are comparing with the barcode. An RFID reader can pick up the data on the RFID tag without having to see the tag. You don't need to see the tags from the RFID reader when it is pressed. So, it sends a radio frequency, then it transmits the data to the RFID tag, then retrieve data from that to the reader. Individual items can be identified. Instead of a class of item, in other words, RFID tags can be given to specific individual products. So, in the products, let's say that product can be in a box, that also can be having a RFID tags, and inside the box there are so many products. So, in each products we can have many RFID tags. So, multiple items can be read with a single scan. So, when you click on the RFID scanner, that will automatically deal with many RFID tag and retrieve the information. Active tags can be read from great distance, and passive tag have virtual unlimited lifetime. So, normally most of the places these passive tags are using, not like the active tags, because active tag required some power supply, as explained in the video also it is mentioned. Therefore, most of the people what they do is they use this passive tag, that is virtual unlimited lifetime, that is lifetime is not limited. So, about with regard to the questions what I have given here is, RFID is what? An automated method for identification of objects. Identification of objects such as goods in transit. So, this is a good example for that. So, if you have learned it well, so I think that this is an easy question for you. So, when you are reading the other question, it is automatically identified that this is the best question. Other answers are model used to represent interface required in EDI. So, I am not going to read about those other answers. And the RFID system consists of how many elements? How many elements that is having? 3. Here we call about 3 elements: RFID tag, RFID reader, and also backend IT system. So, those are the 3 elements which is available in the RFID technology systems, right. RFID is similar to which other technology? It is similar to barcoding. We said that we compare the barcoding against the RFID technology. So, this is the best answer for that. So, RFID also reading the information from the tag. This barcoding also, barcode reader also reading the information from the barcode tag. What is an advantage of RFID? Active tags can be read from great distance. Yes, it is correct. Very low cost, no, not required a scanner. We required a scanner. So, especially we need a scanner to scan, otherwise how we can get the data, and it is not very low cost. Normally when you compare with the barcoding and also with the RFID, so RFID tag is very high cost than the barcode. Barcode is the simplest way, but RFID is the good technology, so we will have to spend more money when you are implementing RFID technology in the system. E-procurement. What is this procurement? Procurement is purchasing goods. Let's say I am telling that purchasing of goods, whatever the items. So you have a procurement process, you have a buying process. So e-procurement means we are doing it electronically. We see how what is that? E-procurement is a general term for the purchase of supplies and services through the internet. Purchase of supplies through what? Through the internet, the information and network system such as electronic data interchange. EDI also used in e-procurement. Is typically operated through a secure website where orders are placed electronically. E-procurement website. Actually, in this e-procurement, you may have seen that in your general office, when you want to do procurement, what you are going to do is you are preparing a specification. If you are going to buy a computer, you are preparing a specification for the computer. This is the specification we need. The specification is the detail of information which you require from the machine that you are going to purchase. So that is based on the specification, you are preparing bid document and some other procurement document. So when you want to take some quotations, so what you do is that you publish in the paper or in your notice board or somewhere. Then the supplier will see that, and what they do is that they will bid for the bid. So they will send the quotation. But the same thing, the same process can be done using e-procurement. Let's say you have a e-procurement website, right? And you have registered users. It means you are giving the access for some of the suppliers as the authorized suppliers in let's say, as an example, in Sri Lanka, they have authorized suppliers. For AC maintenance, they are authorized suppliers. For other let's say purchasing of materials such as printing materials, the A4 papers, for such kind of things, you have registered suppliers. Not only one supplier, there can be so many suppliers. So you have given the access in the website, so they can access to the website. Then what they are doing is they are registering with the website. Before they are getting the access, they will be given the access for that. The username and password will be given. Then when they log into the system, they can see the bid document, which is describing all the information that the bidder has to bid. So so it is not like a hard copy. Now they are not giving a hard copy, they are giving a soft copy instead of a hard copy. Earlier in the manual procurement process, what we did was we printed the bid document, and that was available in the cashier somewhere. They can pay and take it. But now it is in the soft copy. It means you can electronically you can download in a PDF or Word document, as a Word document or a PDF document. Then they can do the bid. Then after reviewing the bid document, they are preparing their proposal in a soft copy format, and all the other information which has to be taken from the banks and some other places, they will be taken it and scan and upload to the e-procurement website. Then the evaluation also can be done in the same way. Normally when there are so many bid documents came, there is a technical committee which what they do is they evaluate the bid document and select the best supplier, best person to supply the required goods. So then that part also can be done via online. It means in the program website there can be a technical evaluation criteria. So as per that people can remotely do the evaluation. So there can be more than 2 people. So they will be logging into the system and do the evaluation. So all those processes can be done electronically now. So that is called e-procurement. I think it's clear to you now. Complete purchasing mix, or the 5 right of purchasing. What are the 5 right of purchase? Please remember, this will be coming for the examination most of the times. When it is come to e-procurement, the 5 right, it was mentioned in some of the questions, I think. At the right time, you need the items at the right time and right quantity. You need the right quantity. Let's say if you order 100 raw material of 1000 of quantity, you require the 1000. If you are having the 700, what will happen is you can do the production that required by the sales people. So you need the right quantity, and also it is required at the right time. If it is getting delay, the production process also getting delay. And the right quality. Sometimes we have seen that there is a very good correlation with these two. It is because if you are ordering goods instantly, sometimes the material provider cannot do the quality materials and provide quickly. Then they will get hurry and provide the unquality goods. So this good procurement, we should have right quality goods. Otherwise, the end products will be not having the quality features. The right price, it should have a right price. If the time is delayed, the price will increase. If the quantity is delaying, the price is increased. Likewise, because of so many factors, price can be increased if we are not doing at the correct time, at the quantity, at correct quality. So price is a main factor, and the right vendor. From the right vendor, you have to select the right vendor. When evaluating so many bid documents, you may have evaluated and selected the best supplier or the lowest supplier. So you have to decide. So normally what we have seen in most of the organizers, what they do is they compare the prices and select the vendor. But it should be in other way. You have to select the best quality product, the best quality vendor, and then open the price of the envelopes. So normally that is done most of the organization. Some of the organization, they are not evaluating the prices at present. Initially, they are not evaluating the prices initially. Let's say there are 10 suppliers who have provided 10 bids, right? So you are not going to evaluate their prices. The prices are in the separate envelope. The bid document is in a separate envelope. So then they will be evaluating the bid document first, right? Then select the best vendor. Then after that, there will be a priority given: first vendor, second vendor, third vendor, like that, as per the quality of the specification and also the other things mentioned in the bid document. So then, as per that, they are prioritizing, as per that they are sorting out who is the first vendor to be selected, second vendor. Then they will be open the prices of the envelope. Normally they will be giving a separate envelope for that. Then as per that they will be sorting. Then ultimately they are selecting the best vendor based on the prices, based on the quality. So, these 5 rights of purchasing has to be there in the purchasing mix. Okay, benefit of e-procurement. What are the benefits? Earlier you were doing this e-procurement using manual systems, but now you are doing it electronically. It reduces the cost. There is a high efficiency. You need to print the document and give it to the supplier to supply the bid for the product. So, it is electronically available. You don't need to post it to the people, but now you can do it online. And so many cost factors can be eliminated at this point. So, reduce inventory level. You don't need to keep more inventory when you are let's say if you are going to publish a bid document in the newspaper, that will take time to design that, and they have to publish it. You have to give 2 weeks to do that one. Then they will be supplying the bids at the correct time, and thereafter you have to do the evaluation. There are so many processes in manual process. But if you are having a e-procurement system, those things can be done very quickly. But when you are doing manual thing, you have to order so many materials, so many inventories you have to keep. Otherwise, it takes more time to do the procurement. But in the e-procurement, you don't have to wait for more times, you don't have to wait for more days and months, you can do it quickly. So, then you can reduce the inventory level, then automatically costs also become reduced. And controls, financial transparency, ability to control inventory. So, there are so many controls over that. When you are having a e-procurement system, you can control instantly. So, without waiting in such a manual system, you can do all the things. You can stop the procurement immediately if you want. And when you are publishing the newspaper and when you are being there is a process going on. If you are going to redo it again, what you have to do, you have to publish it again. But in the e-procurement system, you can stop if you want, and then you can reopen it to the suppliers and notify instantly. Very quickly you can notify to the suppliers, okay, now we have started the procurement, you can bid now. And also financial transparency, that can be open for many people. That actually some of the organization, what they does is they open the prices also for everyone. When someone is pricing at the 100, other one is pricing at the 90, 80. Likewise, there are different people pricing at the at different prices. That also can be transparent to everyone. So, there can be such systems. Wider choice of suppliers. Suppliers are in everywhere in the world. You don't have to worry about the suppliers' location, where are they, what type of customers. You don't have to worry about that one. If it is in e-procurement system, you are open for the world, so you can bid from other countries as well. So, it is easy to publish, because otherwise, let us say that if you are doing a manual system, how you can open your bids to the other countries? Can you do instantly? No, you can't. If you have your e-procurement system, what you have to do is give the access to the supplier like the access you are giving to the local suppliers. So it is easy now. Quick ordering. Talk about this. Quick ordering. E-purchasing allows organizations to select standard item from electronic catalogs and then automatically send the electronic purchases order to the supplier via an extranet. The extranet, we learn about that. So, using the intranet, so you are open that connection with the external people, they are the suppliers, then it becomes a extranet. So, then the catalogs and also everything can be open like that. So, quick ordering can be done well. It means when you need to order the products, you don't need to wait for more days, you can quickly order the goods. Let us say if you are evaluated the best supplier, normally I'll tell one example. In the factory environment, when the materials are required, it will show what is the material quantity. Then that automatically sent to the supplier when the register supplier automatically from the system. Then supplier will be put the prices. These are the prices that we can provide. Then based on that, there can be only one person who will select what's the best supplier to purchase these materials. Then they will be give the okay. So then they can order the products very quickly. Intangible benefits. Staff are free. Staff do not need to print the bid document and so many other involvement can be avoided. So you don't need to worry about the manual processes. Now it is online. It is a e-procurement system. You can do everything online now. So there can be so many intangible benefit the supplier is getting. Actually, the companies, they can reduce the staff even, and if they are having a procurement system. Benefit to suppliers. There can be so many benefit to the suppliers. E-purchasing allow organizers to select standard item from the electronic catalog and then automatically send electronic purchase orders to the suppliers via an extranet. So suppliers, for the suppliers also from their side, it is very easy to supply the products because they don't need to worry about the other manual processes. Now everything is online. Their costs also getting reduced now. As questions, at the right time, at the right price. Right price, they are talking about 5 rights. Right quantity, right vendor, the right quality are known as what is 5 rights. An e-procurement website allows authorized, unauthorized and registered users to do which of the following? Send their invoices as a PDF, provide images, product they wish to purchase. So login using a password. So they are giving the access using a password. They can log into the system and do their e-procurement thing with the organization. Which of the following would be considered the benefit of e-procurement? Quick coordination, they can order quickly, and control and cost reduction. All of the things which we mentioned here are there. So you know that this is the answer now. Quick ordering is benefit of e-procurement. So I think from these four questions, it will be given a very good understanding. Okay, we'll shift to the next one. Technology application in HRM. The technology application in HRM. HR management, payroll management, recruitment, training, insurance, performance, organization change management, policies, publishing, organization survey management, employee suggestion. All these things are handled in the HRM system. So this is a very familiar topic for everyone because all the organization now they are maintaining a HR system. So what we are talking here is technology application in HR and HR analysis. So employee self-service and manager self-service. Employees and managers can now enjoy autonomy without having to rely on the business user to maintain their data and provide reporting capabilities. They don't have to worry about now. Automatically everything can be done. Individual can now utilize the employee self-service and manage self-service to maintain their data and enjoy clear transparency with regard to the information held and maintained by the organization. So, employee self-service applications. So, in the HR systems, this is available, and all the data available with the each employees will be stored in these systems. Then they can do so many analytics by using those. As an example, when you go to the office, first of all what you are going to do is you punch your finger and your attendance will be marked automatically. So, after 1 month's time, you will be getting a overtime that you have worked for the extra hours as extra hours. So, then that will be automatically calculated as into the finance division for payment, and also EPF and everything will be automatically calculated using these services. And as a employee self-service, what you can do is you can retrieve the information what you require from the system. Actually, when you log into the system, you can see how many leaves you have been taken and what are the balance leaves and what are the leaves that you can take in future, and also what are the benefits that you will be having, and also some other information available in the organizer also will be retrieved by you by using this employee self-services. And also the manager self-services, they can manage all the data by using these systems, and then it is very easy for them to manage without using the manual processes, manual systems. The analytics in HRM. What are the analytics? So, descriptive and predictive analysis of employee performance, utilizing fast data from across the organization based on the data available in the HR system. You can predict the analysis. Descriptive and predictive analysis can be done with the employees information, employee based on the employee's performance. Actually, all the data of employees will be available in the HR system. By using those data, the management can do their decisions. Management can take their decision. They can handle the HR information in order to predict some of the future things. Time management analysis to predict future events in relation to sickness, holiday. Let's say you may know that according to the data you have in the system, you know that sometimes in December time period and April time period, staff are taking more leaves, and sometimes due to some of the events they will be absent. So, those information can be taken as a predictive analysis. So, when you are organizing some event in the future, so HR system will provide, okay, this period there are more holidays. So, when you are planning, you need so many human resources. So, those prediction also can be confronted for you to take the decisions. Data mining techniques and big data analytics to perform pre-recruitment. Check from data held across the website, utilizing social media, business networking, education and news sites. So, pre-recruitment also can be done using big data analytics. So, there can be so many data mining techniques also. If you are going to do the job hunting, you can use the social media platform to hunt the job seekers. There can be so many job seekers, those who are looking for jobs. So, through the different techniques, you can go online and do the pay recruitment. So, and automation, algorithm and machine platform. algorithm to successfully match the candidates to the role. So, in some of the HR system available in today's world, let's say recruitment system is there. When you put your biodata, when you put your CV to the system, that will automatically stored in their databases. When there is a vacancy comes, they cross check with your profile with the vacancy profile. Then they select the best suit for the companies, then they will give it to the companies for interviews. So, there can be so many algorithms that they are present in machine platforms. The effect of technology in HRM can be seen by which of the following example. Performing an initial screening of job applicants save human screening time. Normally, when you publish one advertisement in the newspaper or somewhere, sometimes you will be getting thousands of applications. If you have received those applications in a manual format by post, what you have to do is you have to open those envelope and then sort it in a file and then sort it and then screen the jobs, screen the application. But that thing can be done using EHRM system. So, you do not need to worry about the physical processes because the applicants are applied in online. So, then they can screen the job application by using different algorithms that we have mentioned, using automation and algorithm. So, using those they can sort who is the best applicant for the job vacancy. So, that will save human screening time. So, that is what mentioned here. HRM analytics can be utilized for which of the following? Determining how the employee perform within a given role. So, how the employees are performed within a given role is measured. That is what HRM analysis can be utilized for which of the following. Analytics, when it comes to analysis, you have to think about, they are referring to the data available in the HRM system. The employee attendance, leave and so many data available. And also in the social media also there are so many information available, especially in the LinkedIn. So many professionals are using the LinkedIn platform. So, in this example what it says, determine how the employees perform within a given role. So, if the role is let us say sales executive, so has he performed in the given role? Using the HR analytics you can find it out. Let us say he may have worked 30 days for the month without having a single leave. So, and also he have performed well and his sales target also achieved. So, using those analytics you can measure who is the best performer within the month. So, that can be done using HR analytics. So, if you want to select the best performer within the month, best performer within year 2021, so you can do it by using the HR analytics. It means the HR data available in the system will be help to determine who is the best employee. So, okay. So, then why was HR often segregated in separate system? To ensure privacy and security. Actually, in HR system, the salary details also can be there. So, most of the organizations, they are hiding the salary even for the HR system sometimes. So, other people cannot view others' information directly. They can sometimes view their designation and also even the birthday or some kind of information, even the age cannot be retrieved by some people. So there can be so many privacy controls. That's why it is available as a separate system. What is ES? Employee self-service. So if it is MS, what is MS? Manager self-service. So those two things can be asked sometimes in the examination. In how HRM could in HRM, how could time management analysis be used to predict future event in relation to sickness and holidays? This also talk about yes. And what are ethics? Right and wrong, and how conduct should be just to be good and bad. You know what is ethics is, right? HR ethics. You also have so many ethics in your life. Unethical means if you are doing something wrong, that is unethical. So ethics, you should have very good ethics in the with you. So I think that in CSE Lanka also there is an ethic committee. Like you can search on that, then you can get a very good idea what is ethics. In the context of HR, what is a machine platform? An open automated platform that allows candidates and employees to share information regarding roles. We talk about machine thing here. Algorithm to successfully match the candidate to the role. In the job application screening system, they are matching the application. So matching platform can be there. So you also can there are some systems you also can download and check. This is the answer for that. Matching, when it comes to matching platform, you have to remember it's talk about an example of selecting best application by using software. So when the HRM system is there, people will put their CVs inside the HR system. They will apply through online, and all the application will be received. Let's say there are about 10,000 applications. So using the machine algorithm, using the machine platform, they can sort it and you select the best application for the role. What is not an analytics of HRM? Descriptive and predictive analysis of organization performance. And predictive analysis of employee performance is yes, employee performance is HR thing. Time management analysis is HR thing. Data mining technique and big data analysis to perform pre-recruitment. We talk about pre-recruitment. That was analysis. So this is the what not the analytics of HRM. Okay. Lean manufacturing. Before we go into the details of lean manufacturing, I think that it is better if you can watch this video and get a little bit idea about what is lean, what is the lean environment. When the words comes as lean manufacturing, you have to see two things. One is manufacturing, the other one is lean. If there is a manufacturing organization, in the factories, how the lean concept can be implemented. In your house also, you can have a very good lean concept. So you can establish that in your house also. You are, let's say you are in your house, your kitchen should be very clean and tidy. All the equipment should be kept in a place where it should be. And also in your house also you can keep the pen and also pillows and bed in some places, and also the files can be stored in a cupboard in a sequence way that you can retrieve those files very easily, and all those things. And also in the office also you can have very good lean concept established. So let's see how the lean concept is established in one of the organization.
Hi everyone, I want to take you on an amazing lean journey to Northern Ireland, to a company called Seating Matters. It has about 50 or 60 employees, and they're changing the world of healthcare seating. Now, this is a family-run company. 3 brothers started it, and they're absolutely incredible. They asked me to come there to speak to them and inspire their organization, but the truth of the matter is, they inspired me, and hopefully this will inspire you. I'm at Seating Matters, and you are going to see the most incredible tour you've ever seen in your life. Buckle up, because they make awesome chairs that are going to help your elderly parents and your loved ones. Let's go. So a quick overview, you walk in the front door and Michelle's in there in accounting, and she's just so happy. And these are the chairs that they make, and they're just incredible. I know firsthand because my mother has one. They made one for my mother and shipped it all the way to Southern California. Their facility is spotless. Everything is organized at the highest level. Everything is visually appealing, including natural light flooding into the facility. Great color coding on all the different frames that they make. Their kitchen and break area is beautiful and very pleasant. You go over to the wood CNC area, everything is perfectly clean. There's no clouds of dust anywhere. There's no debris anywhere. Everything has been thought out at the highest level. Now we're going to go over to the laser cutting area where they have all the frame parts identified again based on color and style. So it's very easy to not make a mistake and produce quality all day long. This is their Trump laser. Everything is sparkling clean over here, well organized. There's no fall off from all the laser cutting. When you go into the welding area where they have all their jigs and fixtures, everything has been so well thought out, but they're constantly making improvements literally every day. Then the powder coating area, every toolbox has been gone through, sweeping, sorting, and standardizing. Now we're over in the assembly area where they're putting the frames together and getting ready to put the upholstery on every one of them. Did you notice all the different disciplines that they're so good at? They do everything here. They do wood, they do metal, they do fabric, they do upholstery, sewing, assembly, welding. They do it all. And then this is over in the sewing area, and it's incredible. And yet, as good as this is, they are making improvements all day long. Now, I'm talking not 3 or 4 improvements. I'm talking maybe 20, 30 improvements a day are being made. Ryan, what were you saying about contrast?
Just to give you a
Okay, I hope that you got a very good idea about what is lean manufacturing environment. Inside the factory, so you have seen that how the equipment are kept in a very good manner. You can easily pick the equipment. So it is sorted there, it is labeled, and also it is clean well. In the canteen area also you cannot see any unwanted foods are there. So all the things are in a very clean manner. And also when they are working in that welding plant also, you may have seen how the equipment are kept there. When after doing that, they are putting those things to the dustbin, and because their environment also, their life also has made in a lean concept. So when they are working in such an environment, then they are automatically they learn these things. And if you have seen, sometimes you may have seen in Sri Lankan culture, are they doing this? So the word you will come to your mind is no. So they are not doing it well, but there are some organizations, they have established lean thing, lean concept in their offices and also in the factories. And if you go to a welding plant or some other garage in somewhere, you can see how how all those unwanted things are kept everywhere. So that is not clean. So when you see that done, do you feel to go again and get your service done? No. So if it is in a very clean manner, when you go inside, there are some chairs to sit down, and their appreciation when you go inside, and there can be so many things to be implemented. Then day by day you can improve by yourself. So the lean concept that mentioned here also can be built up in your house also. So today I think that you can go home and clean your house. You can keep your equipment and all the books and everything in a way that you can find it well, and in a clean manner you can keep your home and also your room like that. And when you are doing this, after your child also, everybody will be learning that one. Okay. Technology application in operation management. Lean manufacturing. So in the video that we saw, what is lean manufacturing is an approach to manufacturing that seek to eliminate all activities that do not add value. Eliminate all activities that do not add value. This is the concept behind this lean manufacturing. Eliminate what? Activities. What activities? Do not add value. The activities which is not giving a value to your process has to be removed, has to be eliminated. Let's say if you are keeping some unwanted items in your house, it's a waste of keeping that. You can throw it somewhere and you can keep it in a side without seeing that, and then you can have a very good clean environment, such as waste and holding inventory. So you don't need to have very good more inventories to be kept in your manufacturing environment if you have very good e-procurement system, and also if you are having a very good inventory system. And that when you are having a lean manufacturing environment, that increase the value, minimize the amount of resources, including time used in manufacturing operation. Let's say if you want to find one key, one equipment, then you will have to, sometime if you are finding it everywhere, where did you keep it, and you are asking from some other, where did you keep my equipment, my, let's say your grinding machine or something. So where did you keep did you see my grinding machine, did you see my saw? And likewise you will be asking for some various people. But if you are having a very good lean manufacturing environment, so you know where are you going to keep it. If you are giving that equipment to some other, so you will be noting it down in a piece of paper or in a book or somewhere. Okay, I transfer this equipment to some other. So you know where is your equipment is now. Likewise, you can reduce the time. So that is a waste. If you are using more time, it's a waste for your production. And non-value adding activities. Eliminate waste and improve product flow and quality. So eliminate waste is a very good keyword that you have to remember. Okay, you got a very good idea about what is lean manufacturing. Principle of lean manufacturing. What are the principles? Specify value. What create value from the customer's perspective? So all the products should have a value. That value is defined by the customers. Based on the customer's perspective, it means what the customers required, what they think about. That will create the value. So that is the specific value. That is one principle of lean manufacturing. Value stream. These are the activities in the production process that create the value that customer wants. So according to the customer perspective, that customer needs some product as per their requirement. So in the value stream, there are so many activities and in the production process that create a very good value to the customer. So, when you are making up one product from start to end, there are different activities involved, not only one. All those activities add what? Add value. So, it means in the values chain, adding so many other values using the different activities. Flow. Make the production process flow in response to the demand without interrupting such a breakdown or defective output. So, if you have planned your future demand, you know what is the production to be made in order to satisfy the demand. So, without taking any interruptions in the production process, if you have planned it well in a lean manufacturing environment, you can produce the product that the customers need requirement, that based on the demand, and give the product for the sales people to sell it. So, without having defective product. So, make the production process flow in response to the demand. There is a demand, let us say as per the sales forecast, in April the demand is like that, in December demand is like this, right. You know what is the demand for April, this is December. So, you know what the demand is. So, your production process also has to be streamlined according to the demand. You know that in April you have to produce this much of good, this much of human resource that you require, and also you have to plan your manufacturing environment according to that. Then you can give the very good product without having any defective products. Pull. Let the customer pull value from the producer. The producer should only make what is valued by the customer. Make it just in time to satisfy the customer demand. Lean manufacturing is associated with just in time purchase and production method. Pull the value. So, customer is pulling the value from the producer. It means he is the person who is taking the value from the producer. Producer is giving the value to the customer, customer is pulling the value from the producer. So, at the right time, at the right quality, that the producer has to give the good value products to the customer, customer is pulling that. Perfection. Zero defect. Zero defect, removing waste and by removing delays and discontinuing in supply chain and manufacturing process. So, if you are having a very good lean manufacturing environment in your factory, the perfection should be there. It is because there should not be defect product, zero defect, right, and removing of waste, and by removing delays, removing delays is what? The delays is giving the product to the customer, the delay in supply chain, those things has to be removed. So, when you have such kind of processes without having any defect, without having any waste and removing delays, so you will have a perfection in your factory or in your office. So, I think it is enough for you to get a very good idea about what are the principles of lean manufacturing. Which of the following best describe lean manufacturing? the elimination of activities that do not add value. Please remember this one. This is the key sentence that any of the people will ask when it comes to lean manufacturing. The elimination of activities that do not add value, such as waste and holding inventories. So, please remember this answer, because when there is a question, they will try to put this as an answer somewhere, right. The aim of lean manufacturing is to increase value. None of the other answers. This is the answer, increasing of value. So, you are very understandable and you have understood well about what is lean manufacturing is. So, you can answer for any of the question in lean manufacturing now. Total quality management. What is TQM? It's talk about quality, not the quantity, right? TQM is a business philosophy that emphasizes the importance of satisfying customer need. In order to satisfy the customers, there are different philosophies used. TQM utilizes management techniques such as continuous improvement. These are the TQM utilizes management techniques. Let's say in the question paper, if they ask, the TQM utilize some management techniques. Following are the example. What are those? Continuous improvement, employee empowerment, quality process. Normally, this empowerment thing will not be happening in most of the countries, because you have to empower the people, empower the employees. Let's say I have seen that some of the managers, they are not empowering their subordinate. Always manager is trying to poke their fingers into their work and try to do with them. It's good that you can do, but you cannot do all. You can do work with them together always. You can guide them how to do it well. Then you can expect something from them. Then we have to empower those employees to do their work by themselves. Then empowering his employees is not happening by most of the managers, but good managers are doing that. And in TQM, there are 6 C's of TQM. What are those? Commitment is one. You should have a very good commitment. Culture. Culture of the organization. Continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is a very good measure and a very good thing that implemented most of the organizations to give a very good products to the customer. The cooperation with each other, customer focus and control. Okay. Let's watch a video and then we will get a good idea about what is TQM.
In this video, we will be learning about the concept of total quality management, also referred to as TQM for short. We will learn what is total quality management, what are the principles of total quality management, and what are its limitations. In today's global markets, competition continues to get harder, and it is becoming essential for companies to provide more consistent or better quality products and services to their customers. In order to provide such quality products and services that meets or exceeds customers' expectations, a key management approach, such as total quality management, should be implemented by organizations. So what exactly is total quality management? Well, total means the involvement and input of everyone in the organization, from top management to its employees. Quality means fully meeting customer needs and requirements all the time. And management is the way we act and operate our policies and procedures, including our training and instruction to all our employees. Thereby, TQM can be defined according to Karam Hazmi, 2007, as a management philosophy that seeks to integrate all organizational functions such as marketing, finance, engineering, customer services, and so forth, to focus on meeting customer needs and organizational objectives. And these are the quality gurus in history, who each played a part in developing the quality management approach of TQM as it is today. They are W. Edwards Deming, Joseph N. Juran, Armand V. Feigenbaum, and Philip B. Crosby. Following are the 8 principles of total quality management. The first principle is customer focus, whereby the company must place the customer at the center of attention in order to understand their needs, so that they can meet or exceed their expectations. The second principle is leadership, by establishing a unity of purpose and organizational direction, where all members of an organization can share a common goal or aim. The third is the involvement and utilization of the entire workforce, by creating an environment without fear that encourages every employee's involvement and achievement of the organization's objectives. Fourth is process approach, recognizing that things accomplished as a result of processes. The fifth is the strategic and systematic approach to management. A company's strategic plan must incorporate quality as its core component. The strategy here is doing the right things, right, the first time, and every time. The sixth is continual improvement, creating a culture of continuous improvement for 0 defects, 0 errors, and 0 accidents. The seventh is factual approach to decision making, meaning decisions must only be based on accurate, relevant, and reliable data and information. And the eighth principle is mutually beneficial supplier relationships, where both the company and the supplier can benefit from one another's resources and know-how, resulting in value for all. Now, as with any organizational system, total quality management has its limitations, though it may differ from one company to another. As such, let's look at 2 limitations that occur with this management approach. The first is cost in time and money. Implementing TQM systems can take many years. During these long years, substantial costs can accrue due to the lengthy process of training employees, which also takes a significant investment by the company in terms of money and the utilization of resources. So, adopting the TQM process can be quite expensive and exhausting. Second is the fear of change. Because of increasing global competition, many organizations are replacing the traditional approach with a TQM approach. However, there are those employees that resist change due to uncertainty, doubt, and fear from these rapid global changes. And this is what sometimes, but so hold in organizations with successfully implementing the TQM system. Despite these limitations above, there are companies that have successfully implemented the TQM approach and have gone on to achieve long-term success, growth, and survival. An example of such a company would be the Toyota Motor Company. In relation to TQM, they put the customer first. Second, they continually improve their products, also referred to as Kaizen, which means continuous improvement. And third, they fostered total participation by encouraging all employees to be involved in making effective contributions towards the development of the company and the achievements of its objectives.
What does acronym TQM means? This is total quality management. So that's an easy question. TQM is the process of applying a 0 defect or resources and relationship. Which of the following is not a technique of TQM? Continuous improvement is there, employee empowerment is there, quality process is there. Spend more for improvement is not the TQM technique. So with regard to quality, so here we talk about quality management, right? We are talking about quality management. So in quality management, there are some people's ideas explained. So in the textbook also, that you have received in the study pack also, they have given some of the professionals who have given their ideas about quality. So in the question paper also they will be asking about these people's idea, what they are telling about. So there are some people, W. Edward Deming, Phillips B. Crop, Joseph Jurans, Gayson Approach. So there are so many other people, and so when their names comes to your mind, you have to identify what did they say about W. Edward Deming. What did he say about Phillips B. Crosby? What did he say about Joseph Jurans? What did he say? So if you are remembering those things, so definitely there will be some question regarding these things. So it is easy for you to answer thereafter. W. Edward Deming, what is saying about quality? The Deming ideas are, the business should continually seek to improve its product and services. When you start a business initially, from start to the continuations, when you start to the break even and then also continue to earn some profit, so that will be a continuous improvement. So business should continually seek improvement. That should not stop. If it is stopping the continuous improvement, what will happen is that will be failing in the market. Then ultimately they will have to close down the company. So continuous improvement should be there. And the other one is eliminate waste, eliminate defective production. In total quality management, we talk about these things. So do not rely on inspection procedure to achieve quality. Inspection uses up resources without creating a value. So do not rely on inspection. You don't need to inspect the procedures to achieve the quality. Inspection uses up resources without creating a value. So you have to, the understanding, you don't need to inspect. When selecting suppliers, prices should not be the only consideration. So prices should not be the only consideration. Who is saying this one? W. Edward Deming is saying. What he is saying? Price should not be the only consideration. So when you want to sell some products, price is irrelevant. It means what he is saying is, let's say if you are selling a BMW, so and also a very good, very high value cars, they don't need to worry about the price, because there are some categories of, there is a segment of people, the rich people maybe, so they are willing to buy this product even at any high price. They are referring only for the features of the car. So price is not the only consideration. So what he is saying is correct now. Quality and reliability of supply are also important. Quality is important, reliability of the supply, those are also important. Improve production system, this reduce waste. When improve production system, that will be basic. So when you are looking at these ideas what he have said, what are the key things that you can highlight? This is a very good thing that he have highlighted. And eliminate waste and eliminate defective products, those are the things. So when you are analyzing the what others said, you have to take the difference ideas that they have explained, right? Then it is easy for you to answer for the questions. And continuous improvement. Okay, that is what W. Edward said. Phillips B. Crosby, what he said? Phillips says about two concepts. What are those two concepts? Zero defects. Eliminate all defects and achieve 100% quality. So, he is talking about zero defects. When the zero defects things comes to your mind, when there is a question about zero defects in quality, your mind will reflect to the name of Phillips. So, what Phillips said was zero defects. Get it right the first time. At the first time you have to do everything. A production should not have to be corrected once it has been made. Right first time is consistent with the idea of zero defect. At the first time you have to be having a zero defect products. So, that is what Friedrich B. Cosby say. Sometimes what he says is correct at this point. Let us say Japanese people, when they are going to implement a product into the market, when they are going to put a product into the market, so they are doing so many researches and producing a zero defect product and put it to the market. And at the first time it is zero defect. Then the market will accept it and then use the product, and after using you didn't see any defect. Then of course their recognition goes up. That's how they are, when we see that they are good in vehicles. Japanese people are very good in developing vehicles. So, because there are zero defect, there are some vehicles which had some defect, but what Phillips says is there should be zero defect at the first time. Each work should take full responsibility for their work. Quality is everyone's responsibility. This is a very good thing. Let us say in the question paper if it is asking quality is everyone's responsibility. Who is saying that? Phillips says. Let us say in the question paper they will have who is saying about that quality is everyone's responsibility. Then they will be giving three names: Phillips, Edward and Joseph and some other. You have to select the best answer thereafter. As a question, Philip B. Cosby is known mainly for how many concepts in TQM? Number 1, number 2. Two concepts. He is talking about two concepts. Okay. Joseph Durans, what he is saying? Quality Control Handbook was published in 1951. He has published a Quality Control Handbook. The best approach to enhancing quality is to identify specific opportunities. He is saying that identify specific opportunities, evaluate their viability by using conventional methods such as return on investment. ROI is mentioned. Plan the selected project carefully, monitor the result. Juran defined quality as fitness of use. The fitness of use. When it comes to the fitness of use, you have to remember it says by Joseph Durans. What is fitness for use? Juran defined quality as a fitness for use which includes the two elements. Quality of design, which can include the customer satisfaction built into the product. Quality of conformance, in other words the lack of defect in the finished good. Quality of design and quality of conformance is mentioned by the Joseph Duran in fitness for use. Quality is as a fitness for use, that is said by Joseph Duran. Okay. Kaizen. What is Kaizen approach? Kaizen, this is a Japanese term, Japanese word. Kaizen means continuous improvement. This is the meaning of that. So, if you know the meaning of this Kaizen word is, then it is easy for you to answer for any of the question coming from this Kaizen details. Kaizen views workers as the source of solutions. Workers as a source of solutions. It empowers workers to find solution. Here, he is talking about that the workers who are working in, let's say in the factory, the workers who are working in the factory, they are the source of solution for any of the defect, any of the requirement. They will be giving the best solutions. Because the people, what he says, people who are working, not what he says, that is a Japanese term, right? No one has said this one, because this is a Japanese term that used in Japan. So, it empowers workers to find solution to enable the continuous improvement. So, workers are the source for solutions. They are the people who provide the solution for the problem. So, they have to be empowered to produce the best products in continuous improvement. There are two basic approaches to improving quality. What are those two basic approaches? The one approach is to make major changes to the production process and replace the existing processes. So, this is how he is going to improve the quality, doing a major changes to the products and replace the product with the existing processes. So, suddenly you are not going to do it one by one, you are instantly, you are putting the product that is developed now and removing the available product. The second approach is to look continuously for a small way in which process and method can be improved and implemented over time. A continuous stream of small improvement will add up to a major improvement in quality. What is this? Two things. One is, as a whole, he is going to do all the changes and replace. Or else, he will do small processes and do little improvement, and some of the little improvements will be done there. So, those are the continuous improvement. Ultimately, the final product will be there. So, it means the second approach is small improvement will add up a major improvement in quality. There can be so many small improvement, day by day they are doing it. Then ultimately after some days, you will be getting a very good product. So, that is the second approach. First approach is you are doing a major change, you identify all the changes to be done and you are replacing those changes and then implement that by removing the existing processes. Okay. What does the Japanese concept Kaizen means? Continuous improvement. When the Kaizen word comes, you know what the Kaizen is in Japanese language. Kaizen means continuous improvement. Quality of design and quality of conformance are two elements of TQM defined by Joseph Durans. Joseph Durans, what he said here? Quality of design and quality of conformance. Normally the quality of conformance words comes, you may remember that is said by Joseph Durans. Phyllis B. Crosby's two concepts are zero defects and get it right at the first time. Here, zero defects is one thing, two concept. One thing is two concept, and the get it right the first time is the second concept. Okay. Business re-engineering processes. Business re-engineering. What is business re-engineering is? Let's say you have a business, you are going to re-engineer in that one. It means you are going to do different changes and make the processes to in a good manner. Business processes re-engineering is the act of recreating a core business processes with the goal of improving product output, quality, reducing cost. Typically, it involves the analysis of a company workflow. So, it means that now you know that your organization is not dealing well in the processes. Let us say your business process is not giving a not giving what the company is expected. Let us say after 5 years duration, you are expecting to produce 1 million of products in different ranges to achieve a certain income to the company. But you may understand that the business process that you are dealing in your organization will not be supportive. Thereafter, what you have to do is, you have to do a business process in re-engineering in your organization. So, your workflows will be analyzed thereafter. You have to analyze the workflows, workflows, and then reduce costs and improve the production output. And to do that, you have to do so many business process changes. Then after identifying the business process changes, you will be implementing that is called the re-engineering. Some of the key linkage in the business re-engineering is change management. So, when you are re-engineering, when you are changing the business processes, there is a change management come into action. It means how the employees will react to the change and how the customers will react to the change, how the other stakeholders will react to the change. And project management, that has to be implemented in a project manner. It means within 1 year duration, we have to go do the business process re-engineering in your organization. So, how do we do that? This should be a planned process. So, project management is there. Information technology, e-business opportunity. So, when you are engineering these things, you know that in today's world, the IT has involved very much into the business. So, that thing also will come as a key linkage. Information technology software packages ERP. So, you will have to have a ERP system. There are so many other software packages that will add value to your business processes. And supply chain management also has to be improved in your organization, within the organization and also outside the organization. Value chains. So, when processing so many activities, there are so many value chain activities involved in the organization during the process, business process. So, those are the key linkages in business process re-engineering. So, business process re-engineering, it is explained in a pictorial way here. Process identification and data gathering. First, what you do is identify the processes and gather the data, and process consulting and consulting the processes. Process re-engineering, the processes are re-engineering. The consultants who will do the consultation for the processes what we should do, and those consultation will take into action and then do the process re-engineering. And blueprint of the system, take the system into implementation. And change management, then the change management will come, and then transformation and transform to the new systems. Project management. So, project management shows that the project kick-off of the completion of the projects. The kick-off means that you have finish it, now you are going to launch it. So, this is the normal process of business process re-engineering. I gave this picture because you can easily identify how the ERP business process re-engineering works. Why focus on processes? Why do you want to focus on processes? Because there can be unclear how value is achieved or can continue to be achieved. So, when you are achieving the values, it is unclear if you have not defined it well. The effect of change on the operation of the business are hard to predict. So, changes which happen in the operation process are hard to predict. So, you are predicting that in next month you have to develop so many products because it's the New Year season and you are planning for that. But suddenly due to some environment changes, so government initiatives, so there can be so many changes will happen in next month. So, then you will not be having the expected achievement. So, those are very hard to predict. There is no basis to achieve consistent business improvement. There is no any basis. So, let us say somebody is saying, okay, we should have a consistent business development in our organization. So, how do you do that one? There are no special basis of doing that one. The different organizations will be doing different activities in order to have a consistent business improvement. Knowledge is lost. People move around or out of the business. So, knowledge can be lost. If you are having a knowledge management system in your organization, even the knowledge is lost, you don't want to worry because the knowledge management system will manage with the next employees to continue the process. So, people can move around. So, there will be no issues if you are having a very good knowledge management system. Cross-functional interaction is not encouraged. Within the organization, outside the organization, there can be so many cross-functional interaction with each other. So, it is difficult to align the strategy of an organization with the people, system, resources through which the strategy will be accomplished. So, it is a little bit difficult to align the strategy of an organization. Actually, these things which I explain you, there is a little bit low weightage about coming to the examination, but you have to understand what is this. Some important fact of BPR, business process re-engineering. Quantum leap in performance. What is quantum leap? This is a very good keyword that will come to the examination. Please remember this one. In order to move the business to the next stage, a quantum leap is required. Let us say, as a simple question I will ask from you, what is your quantum leap in your life? Let us say I will say my quantum leap is passing advanced level examination, because let us say I passed the advanced level examination and I got selected for a university. So, that was my quantum leap in my life. Sometimes some people can say, I got a child, new baby. So, then I started a new business because with my baby's name. And then it was developed after 5 years time. Now I am in a very high caliber and I am earning a lot. So, my quantum leap is my child. So, likewise in your life also there can be so many quantum leap which has been changed your life. So, now today you can think about what was your quantum leap, what will be your quantum leap in future. So, if you become a chartered accountant, then that will be your quantum leap in your life to achieve your target. So, after becoming a chartered accountant, you can name it as my quantum leap. A sudden large change, development or improvement. It's a sudden large change and development of improvements is known as quantum leap. In order to take quantum leap, the business need what? A strong company vision. Strategic planning should be there. A passionate, driven leader. There should be a very good leader to have a very good quantum leap in your organization. Your organization should, let's say your organization is developing some cars. If you develop a car which can be run by, which can be driven by using water, so that's a quantum leap that you have done in your organization. Based on that, you can achieve the market. So, there should be a good leader who will guide you to take into that goal. Quality employees. So, there should be very good quality employees in your organization, otherwise you cannot do this quantum leap thing. Technology involvement. So, you have to involve very good technology, otherwise you cannot compete in the market and have a very good quantum leap. Define process and procedures. You have to define all the process and procedures. Consistency in delivery. You can have a very good consistent delivery. There should not be any delays. Your supply chain should be working in a good manner, and working capital. You should have a very good working capital. Above all, a business needs encourage to a quantum leap. So, if your organization is doing all these things, and then you will be getting a quantum leap. Quantum leap will be getting. So, sometimes these can be taken as some example of quantum leaps. Prices have taken a quantum leap upward. The new drug is a quantum leap in the fight against cancer. So, if there is a drug found for as found to rescue from cancer, so then that's a very good quantum leap in most of the people, and also in health industry, that will be a very good quantum leap. The price also can be taken as a quantum leap. What is required in order to move the business to the next stage? That is quantum leap. In order to take quantum leap, the business needs one of the following. A strong company vision should be there. Strategic planning is there. Passionate, driven leader is there. You saw these things, right? Let's talk about this. What is business process reengineering? An act of recreating a core business processes with the goal of improving product output quality, reducing costs. It also explained here. Sorry, here. See, the same thing is given in the slide. Principle of BPR. The whole process should be market driven. Processes should be designed to achieve a desired customer focus outcome. One principle is market should be market driven. They eliminate the differentiation between information gathering and information processing. If there are differentiation in the information gathering and information processing, once the information is gathered, it has to be processed to get the analytics for the decision making. So, there should not be differentiation in between those two. Geographically dispersed resources should be treated as if they are centralized. This allows the benefit of centralization to be obtained. So, if the resources are geographically dispersed, it should be treated as centralized. So, don't need to worry about why it is disturbing geographically. You can have it in a centralized way. So, you have to take the benefit of centralization then. Parallel activities should be linked rather than integrated. So, in parallel you may doing some of the activities which have not linked with your system. So, you can link those parallel activities with your system. Work people should be self-managing. It means they must be empowered to do their work by themselves. The traditional distinction between workers and managers can abolish. It means now you have seen that in after 20 years back, what has happened was there were managers, they order the people to get the work done. What the manager says has to be done by the workers. Now it is not in the correct way. Now it is not in the correct one. So managers should be guided at leaders. That is how we can have self-managing employees in your workplace. Information should be captured one at source. Electronic distribution of information make this possible. Okay, so because I explained this, what are the principles of business process re-engineering. So we conclude this session from this slide, and the next session we will start with the 5-step approach for BPR and complete the chapter 8.